My husband attended our wedding at Seoul Olympic Stadium holding my picture because I cannot go to Korea at that time due to visa problem. This was the main ceremony of our holy wedding in August 25, 1995, together with 360,000 international couples. We received the holy water blessing from Reverend and Mrs. Sun Myung. After exchanging our wedding rings, we took our pledge that we will do our best to overcome cultural, language, and religious barriers in order to build an ideal family centering upon the true love of God. We then receive a benediction prayer to guide us on our future endeavor as husband and wife. During the reception, my husband and I celebrated it from a distance. Our second wedding ceremony took place in the Philippines in January 23rd, 1996 at the PICC. Since I couldn't go to Korea, he came to the Philippines to marry me for the second time. And finally, he came back in July 1996 to meet my parents and ask their permission to marry me on a legal and official marriage. Hello, and thank you for watching my videos regarding my 3 weddings. So I would like to talk about those 3 weddings to explain more further why I really have 3 weddings. So originally, I met my husband through the Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity. This is the full name of the organization that I joined in 1987 when I was in second year college. And I was only 19 years old at that time. And what this organization is promoting is actually to resolve problems regarding cultural, language, tradition, religion, and even political barriers. So the founder, who is the Reverend Sun Myung Moon and Mrs. Hak Jahan Moon, have the vision of uniting first the religious people. That's why the title of their association, or the name of the association that they built, was Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity. So they wanted to start with Christian people to unite as one family under God. So they started the International Holy Wedding. So that was the wedding that I and my husband have attended in 1995. So with the goal of establishing a unified world centering on an international marriage where two different people, not just different in color, but also in nationality, language, culture, and everything, almost 360 degrees different, are joined into marriage in order to create a family without racism. Why? Because, like, if an American is blessed to or married to an African, their children will definitely not be criticizing each other's father or mother, right? Oh, you're an African, or you're white, you enslave my ancestors, right? Or many Africans had difficult life because of you, or because of Americans. So it's not about that, okay? When you already have children, your children will definitely be loving the whites and the black colors. So same with the Westerns and the Asian. There are so many Westerners that was married to the Asian members so that they can relate to each other as husband and wife. So their children will not be a racist because they both belong to parents of Western and Eastern, okay? And many other things that they thought of uniting together as a family, okay? So I applied to join that wedding. I was not forced to, I was not paid, okay? So first, I studied the principle that they are teaching on how to build that ideal family that they are envisioning. And then when I understood the reason, the purpose, and the goal, then at the age of 28, I joined the International Holy Blessing. If you remember, I told you that I joined when I was 19. And then I studied the principle. I became part of the group. I saw everything that they're doing in and out. And for 9 years, I learned what they really would like to build. And finally, at a proper age, I joined the Holy Blessing. And there is when I met my husband, who is a Korean. Okay. So next, many people really thought that we are a cult. You know what is a cult, right? A fake religion. That is a cult. A cult are actually the ones who do kind of weird things that the people cannot really understand. That is why we were called a cult, because what we are trying to do is not very familiar or common to people. That's why they thought that we are a cult. Like, we are matched to a person whom we have not seen, and then we will be married to that person through the International Holy Wedding. So I met my husband personally in 1996. But we attended the International Holy Blessing in 1995 when we haven't even met each other. As you can see on the video, I was holding his picture and he was holding mine. And when we attended the wedding, we were million miles apart. He was in South Korea and I was in the Philippines. And I was just looking at a satellite broadcast directly from South Korea with that ceremony that I cannot attend to personally because of visa problem. So my husband was there holding my picture, hoping that I will be going to Korea soon. Okay? So those were the very weird things that happened in my life. And when I told that story to my friends, they cannot believe me. They cannot understand me. That's why they told me, how can you join such a wedding, or how can you trust a man whom you haven't seen and already you got married to him? So that is so strange. We haven't met anyone like that. And I told them, well, you met one now, right? And imagine we were 360 couples on that very day. Couples means two people, right? So that is 360,000 times 2, because they are couples. So we have how many? It's like uh, 800, less than 800,000 people joined that event internationally. Okay. Others who weren't able to go to Korea at the time had the satellite broadcast in order to receive the blessing. And for me, it was a very historical day, but it is not weird after 25 years of being together. So, although we weren't able to have uh, the holy blessing together, he came to the Philippines the next year, and there was a local blessing ceremony happened at the PICC, and we joined together. So finally, we were able to walk in the aisle, receive the holy water, and exchange rings, and do our pledges to each other together. And that time, they spent only 3 days in the Philippines, and they went back to Korea. Those other Koreans that came to the Philippines, because the Filipina weren't able to go to Korea during the 1995 ceremony. So the last marriage ceremony that we have was the legal ceremony, where we already signed contracts, and with the presence of my parents. My husband's parents cannot come because, one, his father is already in heaven, and second, his mother is how do you call that, disabled, so it would be difficult for him. In the Philippines, we call it pamamanhikan, when the boy wants to ask the girl's parents for marriage. Okay, so that's one thing he was able to do before we finally had our legal marriage. So you were wondering why all the three ceremonies. I think it was all necessary to have it. Actually, we were about to have the fourth ceremony here in Korea when I arrived in 1996. So I was actually overwhelmed with the three ceremonies. So I told my husband, I don't want to have another one. Anyway, I guess we are so much bonded together with those three wedding ceremonies, so we don't have to have another one. Okay, so his relatives agreed that we don't have to celebrate or to have another ceremony in Korean style. Okay, so another trivia that I want you to know, that with all those three wedding ceremonies, we never had a honeymoon after. Okay, so that's another thing that my friend said, oh, you didn't have honeymoon after the wedding? Yes, we didn't have a honeymoon after the wedding. So what did you do? Oh, we just went outside and have lunch or dinner just to celebrate the occasion. And then after that, we went back home. And actually, another weird thing is that after a wedding or an international holy wedding ceremony, uh, the bride and the bridegroom has a direction not to be together for 40 days. They were not to have physical contact in 40 days. But during my time, during the 1995 Holy Blessing, actually, our mission was not to have or not to start a family for 3 years. So we were supposed to be separated for 3 years, meaning we cannot consummate our love until after 3 years. So many of my uh, friends in the movement had the same experience. But with my experience, I only had a year of separation with my husband because we were already uh, old to wait for another 3 years. So I was already 28 and my husband was 33. So after a year of devotion, we were allowed to join as husband and wives. That was the only time that we had our honeymoon after 1 year of not being together physically. Okay, so for that 1 year, I was in the Philippines and like a missionary, and my husband was working here in Korea, and that was our very weird, very not so normal love story, but um, I really took it as a very, very meaningful um, wedding because it has given me time to also know my husband after a year, and we were able to communicate while waiting for the right time to start our family as husband and wife. Okay, so this is the thing that I would like to share to you now, but later on I would like to share more, or you can ask me if you want or you're curious about what other things that we as a couple of the 360,000 was able to do, and how different we our weddings were compared to our traditional wedding in our churches, right? Okay, so thank you very much, and I hope you find my story quite interesting, and I hope it also clears the thought that we are a cult or we were sold to Koreans. Actually, there were so many media in the Philippines who made that headline that a group of women, Filipino women, were sold to Koreans during our wedding in the Philippines. And it broke my heart. I cried a lot because we were misunderstood. And even though they came to interview us and we told them the truth, but still what they put into writing was all falsehood. And that's one reason why I never trusted the media from that time on. And I felt so bad at that time, really. So I hope this also would help you understand who we are and who we really are. We are not bad people. We might be doing strange things in your viewpoint, but we're not doing bad things. That's one thing that I would like to emphasize. And our main goal is to change the world, starting from not an individual, but as a family, because we are the basic unit of our society, the family. So it is better to create a family, or a better family, or a model family that the world can see as a model or a sample in order to help our community and basically the world later on. Okay, so thank you very much and goodbye.